All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Warren Center's second annual Strong Start Virtual Summit. We're so glad you're joining us today. This summit is powered by Reliant. And everyone at the Warren Center is just so grateful you took time out of your Friday afternoon to join us for this keynote speaker. His name is Mark Haynie, and he has a really special message about growing up with a developmental disability. It's really good. But first, if you don't know anything about the Warren Center, we're a nonprofit organization that serves, empowers, and advocates for children and families who have developmental disabilities and delays. We do that through personalized therapy sessions for children, one-on-one coaching for parents, and we also provide access and resources to support families in our community. So before I begin, we have a special presentation from our sponsor, Reliant. They're going to talk a little bit, and then we'll go straight to Mark Haynie's keynote address.
Hello, I'm Leanne Schneider, Director of Community Relations at Reliant. Most people know us for powering their homes and businesses, but we do so much more. At Reliant, our commitment to community is as strong as our roots here in Texas. From assisting family shelters to planting trees, to stocking the shelves at local food pantries, we find joy in serving our neighbors. It's ingrained in who we are as a company and as people. Last year alone, we donated over $5.5 million to 150 local causes, and our employees volunteered more than 4,000 hours. Since 2016, we've been honored to partner with the Warren Center and its mission of serving and empowering children with development differences. 1 in 6 children is diagnosed with intellectual or physical disabilities or delays. And knowing the proven impact that early intervention programs have, it is so important to support organizations like the Warren Center and events like this that provide free resources and information to impacted families. That's why all of us at Reliant are thrilled to present the second annual Strong Start Virtual Summit. I hope everyone participating today leaves feeling encouraged and empowered. I now have the honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, Mark Haynie. Mark was born with a condition similar to radial aphasia, a birth defect that affects the radius bone. Mark has undergone multiple surgeries, 6 of which were just before he turned 4 years old. Like many children impacted by disabilities or delays, Mark has risen above countless challenges, and today he is Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Independent Bank Group, headquartered in McKinney, Texas. We look forward to Mark's inspiring message of finding joy for parents and supporters. Without further ado, please welcome Mark Haynie. Thank you.
Hi, I'm here with Mark Haynie, Executive Vice President and General Counsel for Independent Financial. Besides being a lawyer, Mark is an avid golfer, a passionate fly fisherman, and a tremendous trumpet player. He was born with developmental disabilities. Today, he's here to share his story with us. So Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Amy. Thanks for allowing me to share my story with you this morning. You should know that my arms, while certainly characters in my story, they're not the main character. The main characters are my friends, my family, and all the goodness of people generally. My hope today is that in sharing my story, I can help parents of kids with developmental disabilities experience that same kind of great, fantastic life.
Please tell me a little bit about your physical condition.
I was born in 1956 with what was known then as a congenital birth defect. Specifically, I do not have a radius bone in either forearm, and the ulna in both forearms are shortened. I don't have any wrist function. My femur, which is the large bone in your thigh, are S-shaped, which made me severely bow-legged. I've got facial asymmetry. I have macular scarring in my retina. I have narrowed nasal passages, and I also have mitral valve prolapse in my heart.
What kind of medical treatment was required?
Well, I had 6 surgeries on both arms before I was 4 years old. I wore braces on both legs until I was 4. They had to fuse the wrist and create some stability in both arms. while they were doing the surgery. And since then, I've had 3 knee surgeries on my left knee, and then subsequently as an adult, I've had both knees replaced. Back then, there was not a Warren Center or really any physical therapy. It was just my doctors and my family.
So what was your childhood like?
My dad was the trumpet teacher at North Texas for 40 years, one of the founding fathers of that world-renowned music school. Fantastic trumpet player, super disciplined, really high expectations for himself and for me as his son. My mom was just full of joy. She grew up in Illinois. My dad met her at the University of Illinois. She was the first chair flute player. My dad was the best trumpet player. My grandfather was the band director. And all of a sudden, this boy from Texas comes up there and asks her to marry him and come back to Texas, to a little town in Denton, Texas, to a little school nobody had heard of, certainly in the Midwest in the Big Ten. That just shows the courage that my mom had. She was also a super positive person. I tell this story all the time. I can call my mom, back then I could call her up and say, you know, Mom, Ann, my wife, has run off with the pool boy. I got fired from my job. I've got cancer. My house burned down. I'm broke. And she would say, well, other than that, everything's okay, right? That just shows the positive spirit that she had. She also had just a selfless supporter of our family. She did everything from making sure my dad was properly recognized to she was my seamstress in altering all my clothes. My sister, Melinda, she's pretty, super smart, and really was always really popular. What she inherited from my mom was, again, this selfless support for her family. You know, I had a great family life. We just dealt with my condition as best we could, and we just were forward-looking people. So I played sports. I love sports of any kind, and as a kid, I was all over the place, playing football, basketball, and my dad introduced me to golf at an early age, and that's a passion that stayed with me as well. And then just naturally, I took to trumpet playing. I began playing at an early age, and I still played, including this morning.
So how was it socially growing up?
I had great neighborhood friends, strong church family, and was active in Boy Scouts, and in fact, I'm an Eagle Scout.
Tell me about your high school and college life.
As a trumpet player, I was in the band, and the band is like a family. And as the best trumpet player, immediately I had respect within the band, and that just flowed with great friends. I was popular in the band crowd, but that's kind of damning with faint praise, if you will. But I was just so thankful for all the people in my life, the band directors, my trumpet teachers, and I have lots of really good friends.
And tell me about your adult life.
Again, lots of really great friends and work colleagues from all over the place, from church, from work, from various organizations that I'm involved in. And most importantly is my wife, Ann, of 39 years, and our daughter, Jordan.
When you were a child, were you aware of your differences?
You know, not really. Like any young child, I don't have any strong memories about my condition. I do have some fuzzy memories about my arms being in casts. Particularly, these are old plaster casts, and the way they took them off, they had a little handheld circular saw that they would run up and down the cast. That stuck with me. My parents were the original it is what it is kind of people, and that's the way we lived our life. People have told me, particularly about my legs when I got my braces off, that was like the happiest day of my life. But I don't have any specific memories really about anything other than that. There were no special arrangements made, and this was the 50s, 60s, and that was a time when I was a kid and I was expected to behave and act as such.
So at some point you had to recognize that you were different.
You know, sort of. I do remember maybe around age 10 looking in the mirror and wondering, why are my arms different? I kind of came up with this answer, and it's silly, but it helped me. I envisioned God and the angels in kind of a baby factory putting together babies. And as they were finalizing me, the quality control angel looked at me and said, "Whoa, whoa, this one's too perfect. We've got to do something." And so they made some adjustments, and that's my arm.
That's an incredible outlook. Were you ever angry about it?
Never at the why of it, but I can get frustrated about the simplest little things like buttoning buttons, putting on a jacket, turning a handle. It's such a simple task, and I'm having trouble doing it.
You mentioned that you've never talked about this in your childhood. Have you ever talked about it?
No. This is the first time I've spoken openly with anybody about my condition other than my wife. My parents, we didn't talk about it. We just lived our life, and we all just did the best we could in the circumstances we found ourselves. My parents particularly were forward-looking people. For that reason, we just didn't deal with it. And maybe that's denial, but for us, that's what worked.
You never talked about this with your parents at all?
Not really. Occasionally, when my mom was sewing my sleeves, or my dad noticed when I was a young boy that I turned my spoon upside down as I put cereal in my mouth as just a way that I ate. But it was just more observational than it was emotional.
And Anne, your wife, have you discussed this with her?
Not before we got married. It still amazes me the amazing courage that Anne showed in agreeing to marry me in the first place. I'm so fortunate. She's been my best friend and my life partner for over 40 years. Occasionally, I might show some frustration. In fact, there may be a 9-iron up in a tree somewhere, but I've been advised by legal counsel not to discuss that episode. Annie reminds me regularly that things are hard for people with normal hands and arms. And we've come to realize that everybody has challenges. Mine are just visual.
You mentioned you have a child, Jordan.
Ann and I just decided we were going to have a child. We didn't talk about any of this possibility that it might be passed on to Jordan until after Ann got pregnant. Then we went to counseling and to try and figure out some of the medical why of my condition. And that's really where I learned most about the condition that I had. And I became much more aware and focused more on and confronted my condition. Fortunately, Jordan was born without any developmental difference. She's a beautiful, talented, brilliant person who's very successful in her life.
Why did you decide to speak about this today?
I've spent most of my life trying to inspire people just by being the best I could be. I've realized that I can do more by actually speaking about it.
Do people ever ask you about your disability?
Most people are too polite to ask. Some people do, and I try and politely redirect them. And just again, there's no reason for me to just have a conversation. Everybody's got challenges, and I'm not asking them about theirs, and I'm not sure that they need to ask me about mine. But it's not something that I'm that worried about. It just doesn't really happen that often, except with kids. Kids are just so curious, and answering their questions can be really sweet. Most of the time when they ask, I just say, that's the way God made me, just like you have blonde hair and beautiful blue eyes, and that seems to satisfy them.
What would you like to say to parents of children with developmental differences?
I guess I'd like to challenge them to let go of the why. You see, why is not just a question, but it's also a letter. Think of it this way. Why looks like a path where there's a crossroad and you have to choose which direction you're going to head. I'm fortunate with the help of my family and my friends that I was able to choose the path where I look forward and think about my condition positively. That's what I would challenge parents to do.
What are the positives that have come from your condition?
I think there's several. It's given me an incredible determination, kind of perseverance, a never give up competitive spirit that really drives me. My condition also has given me great imagination and creativity. I have to look at things from a different perspective. If you see me play golf, that's a whole different story. Putting on a pair of socks is just an adventure. But I figured all this out, and that's helped me in my career and in my life to be able to imagine new ways to do things. I think I'm also a more empathetic person. I'm somehow, because I have my challenge and I have to deal with it every day, it makes me be able to tap into other people's challenges in a unique way. Finally, I have a good friend and colleague named James Tippett, and he has a phrase, the goodness of the thing. Now, we talk about it all the time. We don't really know what that means, but I feel like people are especially kind to me sometimes, and I can see it. I can feel the goodness, and I think that's an example of the goodness of the thing. And because of my situation, I get to feel that on a regular basis. Those are all good things that have come out of my life.
Are there things that bother you about being different?
You know, I watch people's eyes, and I can see when they're looking at my arms. And having people stare at my arms can be emotionally draining, but all in all, it's not that big a deal.
Is there anything that you wish you could do that you can't?
The one thing that I think is universal that everybody can do that I can't is make the thumbs up signal. It's such a positive sign and can be used in so many ways, particularly in the virtual world we live in now and everybody's on camera and you just give a thumbs up. I wish I could be able to do that.
Mark, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Is there any final message you'd like to leave with us?
I guess what I would say is, parents, you can't change your circumstances, but you can choose how you and your child are going to deal with it. If you're angry or depressed about your situation, your child will feel that. On the other hand, if you're joyful and full of hope, that will uplift your child and they'll feel that as well. And mostly know that it's going to be okay. Your child's difference does not have to define them. In fact, it's an opportunity for them to leave a positive impression and have a lasting impact on the lives of others. And there's no right way to do this. So relax. You don't have to be perfect. But I'm not going to kid you. It's hard, it takes sacrifice, and you're going to have to make choices every day. And we're so fortunate to have the Warren Center here to help guide you on this journey. They have tremendous resources, great staff, and such a big heart. This is an opportunity for you that I didn't have as a child, and I hope that you take advantage of it. I've had a fantastic life. I've gotten to experience the goodness of the thing. I hope you do too. Have hope.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us to watch Mark Haynie's special message for us. Wasn't he so impactful and empowering? I just loved hearing what he had to say. We appreciate you for joining us for our second annual Strong Start Virtual Summit here at the Warren Center. We know everyone here at the Warren Center is so grateful for you all. And we want to thank our special sponsor, Reliant, for sponsoring the entire Strong Start Virtual Summit, as well as our session sponsors, Skin Specialist and Sandy Kaufman. We really appreciate you guys. And if you missed any of the earlier sessions and weren't able to attend those, I will have those up on YouTube by Wednesday of next week. So just type in the Warren Center and search our name on YouTube, and I'll have all those sessions available for you. They're each 45 minutes. So if you just want to click on any next week and watch it with your family, watch it in your free time, those will be available for you. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and have a good rest of your Friday.